Hi everybody, it's great to have you here again today for another Breakthrough Leadership video. I'm joined by my brother in heart, John Nimmo, and we're going to talk today about something that's fantastic for every leader who's trying to find breakthrough. We're going to talk today about the power of discovery, how asking the right questions leads to breakthrough. John, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you, Greg. Good to be here.
You know, I've known you for a long time, John, and during that time, we've had some amazing experiences. But even more than that, I've found that there's some things that you do that irritate me, bless me, inspire me, and sometimes just flat make me mad. I mean, I'm serious, you know.
Now, what are true friends for?
That's right. What are true friends for? You know, breakthrough leadership, John, you know this, but we're on an endeavor to try to identify simple, repeatable, trainable, universal biblical truths that leaders can use to enhance their leadership, to become the people that they were created to be, to live with passion. I mean, these are the things you've built your life on as well. I've observed it.
Really?
I have observed it. So are you game to talk about those things today?
I'm excited to be here and delighted that you asked me to come. Yes, it's awesome.
I think it's been more than 20 years, John, that we've known each other.
Let's don't talk about it.
I think it was back when we both had hair.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been that long ago. It's been that long.
And you know, I don't know what you were like before that, John. I mean, I really have no idea. But I've noticed some things about you in that last 20 years that really stand out, even more than the rest, okay? And I've loved you for it, like I said. I've hated you for it. One time I even remember out of the air picking out a name that I called you in relation to some of your tendencies. You remember what that was?
I didn't understand it, and I'm sure I don't know exactly what you mean.
Sure
yeah, so maybe you want to go forward with it.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember one time, John, when you were asking me questions, because that's what we're here to talk about today, how to craft the right questions and why it's important. I remember one time in a state of mind where I really didn't want to answer the question you were asking me. In fact, I didn't know the answer. And I said, John, you're just a zit picker. Can we say that on camera, Matt? I mean, I want to know. You know, okay, I get the thumbs up. All right. I just called him a zit picker. He didn't even understand what I was talking about. But you know how it is when, you know, you just can't let that thing go. You got to keep picking at it and picking at it and picking at it. Well, that's kind of the way John has been in our friendship. Can I give a little background on that, John, so it sounds not quite as offensive as it might sound now?
Any way you want.
You can imagine we have a little bit of fun together, but we've also done a lot of powerful things together in real life situations. But you know, if you've been watching any of our stuff, you know my story a little bit, and I've been through some real breakdowns on the road to breakthrough. And part of that story was a period of time where, to be honest, I didn't have any answers, and I didn't really want to talk to anybody about the failures of my life and the things that I was going through. And in fact, that was a time when I just pretty much quit returning John's calls. I mean, that's pretty much the way it was, right? Because he asked me hard questions.
Yeah, and I've reflected on that a little bit in our future conversations that we've had, you know, since that time period. And they were really hard questions. And I'm looking back at the time, I didn't realize maybe how hard the questions were. So, and that's part of discovery. We ask questions to gain knowledge and gain insights, but sometimes in those questions, I thought I was handing you a little pebble, and those questions became a boulder that you were trying to carry.
Oh yeah, I couldn't carry them. I couldn't even think about them. Couldn't even make myself address them. Yeah. And yet, of course, we know that only in addressing those things can we really get past them. And we're going to talk about that a lot more. In a little while here.
You know, the truth is, I loved you through it all.
Oh, John, and I can say this, and I've said it to so many people. That was an era where I really found out who my true friends were, and I really found out the people who would stick by you when you're telling them to get away. In fact, you know, just sidebar, John basically showed up at my office one day from several hundred miles away. Just showed up and made me spend time with him. And it was a powerful transitional point, a real pivotal point in my life and in my understanding of what grace could even look like, because even the very idea of grace, I still wanted to earn it. Again, a conversation for another day. John, I do want to thank you publicly, memorialize that thanks. I know we've talked about it many times, and I'm just so grateful.
You know, in God's mission, I think that's just what we are committed to do, is love people. And we can't just love people when things are good. You know, and we've been through good times. We had fun. We've had an intimate sharing friendship when it all began 20 years ago, and I didn't take that lightly. You know, and so sometimes it's like in a marriage. You know, sometimes you carry the burden for your spouse, and then sometimes they carry your burden. And I think as men, quality friendships and intimate relationships are things that we need to hold each other accountable to. And perhaps that was my mentality when we were going through all that. You know, maybe God was giving me a gift that I just wanted to share, but I also knew that we all go through those things. And I would have hoped, and I hope now, that if the situation's reversed, that you would show up and carry my burden. I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I'm going to put that on my calendar somewhere and try to figure out how to accomplish that expectation. Sounds like he's planning on it, doesn't it? No, John, I love you, and I definitely want to be that guy for you. But you know, what we're really talking about today is the questions, and that's how you penetrated me. It wasn't with, Greg, why are you doing what you're doing? You weren't accusing me. You were asking questions that challenged my paradigms, my expectations. It challenged my beliefs about myself, and you did that. You did that because, well, you know, a lot of people would say you just did that because that's who you are, John, but I don't believe that. I doubt you were that way for your entire life. I'd say you've acquired this skill, and you've done it for what reason? Why do you do it?
I think it all started out in the mid-'80s. I worked with an IBM company, and we were taught, and I was young, I was in my 20s. It started with, we have to earn the right to make a presentation. We just may not assume that simply because we're in someone's presence that we have the right to regurgitate everything that we know without permission. And so the question at that time was, and what I was taught was, how do you get permission? How do you get psychological permission to engage in a conversation that at that time may have been techniques that are designed to be persuasive to get people to see your point of view. And at that time, you know, I was taught that asking questions and developing questions is an avenue that not only allows people to speak, but allows you to find out information that you need to know in order to reflect those questions back in the form of solving a need, a question, or a problem that they may have in terms of equipment, or goals that they may have. So it's a way to align yourself with your prospect to actually sell a product. And it was manipulative. It was may have been a technique, but over time, it became a valuable tool for me in business.
So let me see if I got this. The thing that you've now become natural at, because anybody who knows John would know that asking questions is a natural form of your relationship building skill. I mean, and you're genuine about it.
Well, it's genuine and strategic.
Genuine and strategic. That's beautiful. But I just want to clarify. You didn't start out. Number one, you didn't start out even realizing you needed to do it, probably. And you just confessed to us that when you started, it was really more of a technique.
Yes.
It was really more of a strategy, kind of a technique that you used. But how has that technique now evolved into what it is today? Because, John, I know you. I mean, you're a person who literally finds value, real value, in making inquiries of people, not only to cause them an inflection point, but also because you genuinely want to know their feelings. You want to understand how to relate to them better. You want to understand how to meet their needs.
Oh,
Stephen Covey talked about this very concept in his book, which is quite old now, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's we seek first to understand and then to be understood. So it's asking great questions in business and in the business world is a forgotten art. It's a forgotten art. And I would challenge you tomorrow in your interactions with people and other businessmen, measure the number of times someone asks you a question. Just measure it. And you'll find, and I had an interaction with a lunch meeting of a former business associate that I've not seen for 20 years. And in that lunch meeting, I came away asking myself the question, was he discovering or was he directing? And there's so much power that we lend to other people in that course of discovery, but we don't pursue it. We don't pursue it. So everyone has a psychological need for affirmation, for accreditation. We all want to be valued, right? And so there's a secret to asking a question that allows people to breathe when they talk.
Interesting.
So if we're directing, we're not on a path of discovery. And by directing, we're talking. We want to inflect our autobiography onto other people. We're always calculating what we're going to say instead of what Stephen Covey would call empathic listening. And we can't get there if we're not asking questions.
That's awesome, John. That's awesome. So I'm going to guess that in the next video, we're going to get to some of the processes that you use to discover the strategic questions that you ask people. I mean, you have some thought processes, I'm sure, and we want to get to that. We're going to get to that in the next video. Some thought processes that you use, John, not only in your business, but individually, because these are business people primarily that are watching.
Sure.
But in your business, how you have learned to meet the needs of others through questions while at the same time enabling your business to be profitable, to be successful. It's a very unique combination of things that occur there, and you're really magical at it, although I'm sure you would say anybody can do it.
It's a business skill that has allowed me to experience success in my entire life at whatever I've done. But some of the great leaders of today are a proponent of adding values to others, and gaining influence is a form of leadership, as we all know. But giving influence by adding strategic questions is a powerful business tool that I believe is also biblical.
Awesome.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, John, before we end this video, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you was about the biblical approach to this. I mean, obviously, someone could watch this video and just walk away saying, "Oh, I just got to ask more questions," okay? and I just got to teach other people to ask more questions. Trainable and it's repeatable. You could almost become annoying. Someone who just goes out and, asking the question is only half of the equation. Okay, let's get to that in the next video too. Asking the question is only half the question. But when I talk about simple, repeatable, trainable, universal, biblical truths, tell me what you think about this being a biblical truth.
Biblical truth. In the New Testament alone, Jesus asked over 100 questions. And I think the number may be 130, 135. And I'll give you a great example here. Let's take the reinstatement of Peter. How did he do that? Peter, do you love me? Simon, son of Jonas, do you love me? He asked the same question 3 times. And we see in that perspective, each time Jesus asked the question, Peter got more agitated. And so Jesus got him off of his equilibrium. So in business, we equate that and I can take that same line of questioning to your grandmother. So you go and see your mom, and your mom says, "Greg, it's great to see you," and you're ready to leave. And she says, Greg, would you like to have a piece of apple pie? No, Mom, I really got to go. All right, what's the intent behind that question? So let's talk about the intent of questions with Mom's apple pie in our next video. But it's enlightening. It's a period of discovery, and it's very useful in terms of business and business relationships and explosive success and growth.
Fantastic. Well, John, thanks so much for talking about it. I don't know about you, but I'm intrigued. And John and I have had some long discussions about how questions have propelled him not only to success, but into relational success, in spiritual success, and in every area of his life. We're talking about the power of discovery, how asking the right questions leads to breakthrough. I hope you'll join us in the next video in this series from Breakthrough Leadership.